What if I told you that you could earn an additional $100,000 in your real estate sales business in the next 12 months without working more leads, without working more hours, and without burning yourself out? Well, in fact, today I'm going to share with you 4 ways that you can do exactly that, and not just in the next 12 months, but for the balance of your real estate sales career. Every single year you can add more commission dollars to your income while actually working less, working smarter, and not having to chase at all. Eventually what will happen if you follow what I share here with you today, the business will come to you. All right, so I may not share things that you haven't actually heard before, unless you're brand new to real estate and you've never heard any content about how to generate real estate sales business. I am going to share some common concepts, but I'm going to share them with you in a way that maybe you haven't considered before, maybe you haven't heard them in this way before. And now after hearing this content, it makes a shift for you internally so that you can go create externally the business you really want to have. I have been coaching real estate agents for going on a decade. I'm the broker and owner of a real estate company here in South Florida, and I've been coaching my agents, hundreds of agents over the years, to grow substantial incomes over the years. And I've also been speaking to and coaching agents around the United States for many years. And there are common principles that reign true. I'm going to reinforce some of them here for you today. I'm going to give you concrete ideas on how to execute on these things so that you can change your life. You can change your business. A great coach, a great broker's job is to help you not only earn more income, but also live a higher quality of life. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. Like I said, there are 4 ways. Now, the first way I'm going to share with you sits on top. It is the macro level master skill of a great real estate agent, that if you master this, if you do more of what I'm going to share with you here, this number 1 way, it leads to you being able to succeed in the other 3 ways. Okay, that's why it sits on top as the number 1. Okay, let's get to it. Your number 1 way to earn an additional $100,000 or more in the next 12 months in your real estate sales business is list more. That's right, list more. Now, I'm sure that you've heard that, you've got a list to last. If you know listing agents, right, maybe you've been largely a buyer's agent. If you know listing agents, they're living a higher quality of life than the buyer's agents out there. In fact, this is the ratio of listing to buyers that I want you to have in your real estate sales business to have a sustainable and predictable business. 70% listings or sellers, 30% buyers. Now, typically what happens for a real estate agent is when they get into the business, and I don't know where you're at in your real estate career, but typically when you get into the business, it's easier to work buyers. Why? Because buyers buy houses, right? Sellers buy agents, okay? And in the beginning, you're not yet credible enough, experienced enough, ready to become a listing agent. And so you've got to take what you can get. Most new to business agents work with buyers because it's easier. Right? I can drive them around. I can show them property. Now, nothing about the real estate sales business is easy, but it is easier to be a buyer's agent than it is to be a listing agent. And so what does it take to become a listing agent? Well, predominantly it takes, number 1, the skill set of a listing agent to be able to communicate and demonstrate to home sellers why you're the best option to get them the most money possible in the shortest amount of time with a buyer that'll close and the least amount of stress and headaches for that customer, right? But that takes time and skill to be able to do. What I'm going to share with you today is how to compress that time, how to make that time much shorter so that you can start becoming a listing agent much faster. But it is a choice. In the beginning, oftentimes we work what comes to us, and that tends to be buyers and renters early on. And of course, those are faster paychecks. To become a listing agent is a longer path. There's no doubt about it. But once you choose it, and once you invest the time and effort and energy into creating it, it then continues to feed itself, which leads you to the other 3 ways to make more money, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. So again, 70% sellers to 30% buyers is going to be a healthy ratio for a listings-based business. You are going to earn more money. And again, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. The next way to earn more money, or to earn that extra $100,000 in the next 12 months, is you can raise your price point. Okay, so what do I mean? Again, when you work as a buyer's agent, you're generally taking what comes. Now, if you're doing some marketing, if you're doing some brand building, if you're buying leads online, look, that is a very expensive proposition to buy leads online. Whether you're getting them from a referral-based thing where you've got to pay a referral fee off the top, or you're paying on a per lead basis, once you buy all of your leads, conversion ratios on online leads range from anywhere from 1 to upwards of, like, Zillow as the highest conversion rate if you're good at it, 7, 8, 9%, right? But generally speaking, especially when you're new, your conversion rates are going to be very low, which means you got to buy a lot of leads, you got to kiss a lot of frogs. Most of them don't ever turn into princes. Totally different deal when you're a listing agent, because now you can decide what price points you want to go after. You can say, I want to sell $500,000 homes or $700,000 homes or whatever it might be, depending on your market and what the price points are. You can pick your target customer by simply saying, okay, draw a circle around this neighborhood. I'm going to go get that. Now, that's one of the ways you can become a listing agent. I'm going to share with you other ways in a minute, but you can raise your price point. If you've ever worked with a customer who is at a lower end of the price point range for your marketplace, you know that it's harder to work with that customer than it is to work with a customer at a higher end of the price point range in your marketplace. Why? Because those customers at the higher end of the range, they just have more financial flexibility. They have more resources. And not that there's anything wrong with working with customers at the lower end of the price point range. It's just harder. Right. And so I would want to see you have a higher quality of life. Don't forget it. Earn more money, higher quality of life. And so when you can raise your price point, now instead of working at 300,000 or 400,000, you could work at 600,000 or 700,000, right? It really makes life a lot easier. So raise your price point. The third way for you to earn that extra 100,000 or more in the next 12 months is you can do more deals as a listing agent. No doubt about it. When you're a listing agent, you generate more business. Here's how. Number one, you own the property, right? You can market, you are online, and so buyers can come directly to you. See, when you're a buyer's agent, they're not coming directly to you always because you don't have anything that you can market around. And so you might pick up some buyers, but as listing agents, we have something we can market around. So you go to Zillow, you go to realtor.com, or you go to any of the other online portals that are out there. A buyer can call direct to the listing agent. Guess what happens? Provided they've worked out cooperating compensation with the seller, you're basically earning two commissions in one transaction as a listing agent. Can't do that as a buyer's agent. Oh, by the way, the seller who is selling, a buyer comes in, now you got a transaction. Oh, that seller, they also need to buy. Now, I didn't say never work buyers, right? I said 70-30, right? And ideally what you're doing is you're working as buyers, the sellers who are selling that need to then buy something else. That's a very high probability buyer transaction opportunity versus someone who comes in online or maybe gets referred to you, fine. But of course, buyers change their minds, or their job didn't come through, or they went and got the new car right before they closed on their mortgage. You know how this goes, right? Buyers can be far less predictable than sellers can be. And so you can do more deals because, number one, you can generate multiple transactions off of one listing. Number two, buyers come directly to you, right? Number three is you're now able to use time leverage in a way that you can't as a buyer's agent. Here's what I mean. Let's say you have 1, 2, 3 listings, 4 listings, and it's Saturday. And of course, if you're open housing, fine. But if you're not open housing, guess what? All you have to do is either show your listings or make your listings available to be seen by all the other agents that are out showing their buyers on a Saturday. If you got a buyer on a Saturday, guess what? You're working with only that buyer. You have an opportunity to earn one paycheck that day, presuming they're qualified and ready to go on that day. But if you've got multiple listings, all the other agents are doing your job for you essentially and bringing their buyers to your transactions. And guess what you're doing if you're working on Saturday as a listing agent and not showing your listings? You're going on other listing appointments, or you're prospecting for more listings because you have built a listings-based business, which means you can do more deals. You can free up more time because you're not spending your time driving all over creation, showing buyers houses that they don't want to buy. Again, I'm not saying don't work with buyers, just have the right ratio. So you can do more deals as a listing agent. You have more time leverage, more control over your time, which frees you up to focus on higher payout activities of generating more deals. And then number 4 is you can charge more. Like when you're a buyer's agent, you don't get to set the commission. Who sets the commission as a buyer's agent? Well, ideally, you're setting the commission in your buyer broker agreement, but in many cases, the seller who's offering cooperating compensation, they're going to determine how much compensation you're going to earn, because even though on that buyer broker agreement you said 2.5 or 3 or 3.5%, oftentimes what we end up doing is acquiescing to the differential and saying, well, I'll take what the seller offers and I won't charge you the full fee, buyer, right? Kind of a thing. I think you should. I think you should be able to say, buyer, I'm worth 3% or 3.5% or whatever it is you charge, and I'll collect what I can from the seller if they're paying 2 or 2.5, but I am going to collect the difference from you. Now, I know agents in my office are doing that because we've trained them on the language properly, the positioning properly. Hopefully you're doing the same thing. But I found many buyers agents who are unable to collect that differential, which means you're basically getting paid whatever the seller wants to pay you. But when you are a listing agent, you have an opportunity right there with the seller to negotiate your fee based on the value you provide, right? And if you are a good listing agent who can demonstrate to your seller the full scope of services, the full amount of things that you're going to do for them to help them get their property sold for the most money, shortest amount of time, buyer that'll close in the least amount of stress and headaches, you get to set your fee within reason. That's obviously negotiable with the seller. You can always walk away, by the way, as a listing agent, or you can, decide if it's worth it for you to take a haircut as an investment in, doing more deals and getting more referrals, but you get to set your fee. My best agents, who are predominantly listing agents, 70-30, some of them are even more 80 to 90% listings, and they have teams where they work their buyers out. They're charging the highest commission rates, because they're not subject to a transaction that they don't have any control over, because they're working the buyer and not the seller who's paying the commission, right? So let me recap it. 4 ways for you to add an additional $100,000 to your gross commission income in the next 12 months and more. Number 1, list more. This is the macro level. This is the master skill set. This is the kind of business that you want to build. From there, you can raise your price point. That's number 2. You can do more transactions. That's number 3. And you can charge more. That's number 4. Those are the 4 ways that you're going to generate more business. List more, higher price point, more transactions, charge more. Okay, let's talk about how you become a listing agent then. If you've never been a listing agent, or you are unclear about how to make a shift from being a buyer's agent to a listing agent, here are the steps to do it. Number 1 is you've got to present yourself as a listing agent, right? So for example, in your branding, in your marketing, in your communication, are you an agent that says finding your dream home? Because guess what? You're a buyer's agent if that's your marketing. Are you an agent that says helping you maximize top dollar from every home or from every listing? You're a listing agent, right? So you've got to make sure that your marketing, your positioning, your branding is all about helping sellers achieve their desired goals, again, of which are most money, shortest amount of time, buyer that will perform, least amount of stress and headaches. Feel free to take those 4 things and insert that into every conversation you have with a seller, because when you do, every seller will list with you because you basically spoken to exactly what it is they want to get, okay? But all of your marketing, all of your dialogue needs to be, I'm a listing agent. I help home sellers achieve their goals. All right, number 2 is when you're talking to people, okay, you're wanting to talk to them in a way that indicates that you list homes as a way to make your living. So you become an expert in your local market. I suggest you start with a small, either around your house or whatever geographic area you're working, and get very familiar with days on market, price per square foot, all of the statistical facts of the houses in your local market, rather than being a tour guide, right? Rather than being a door opener. You want to become a local market expert, and you want to be able to speak as if you know exactly what's happening with homes in your local area. And then you want to be sharing that information with people from the standpoint of what it looks like to be a home seller who's thinking about selling their house. It's all in the way you position yourself, both in your marketing, I mentioned, but now in the way you communicate to your sphere of influence, out in your networking, etc. Next is you have to have a lead generation, listings focused lead generation. Okay. So what do I mean? Well, when you are looking to generate listings, if I were to start my business all over again, so I haven't sold real estate in quite some time, but I've been in the business 25 years. And when I started, I sold investment property, apartment buildings in particular. And I didn't know anybody that owned an apartment building in my geographic area at the time, not here in South Florida. I lived up north. And all I did was I built a database of property owners, apartment building owners in this geographic area, and I just called them. And so what I did was I got to know, made relationships with the people that own the property. And I would recommend you do the exact same thing. Now, this is not going to be easy, by the way. This is going to require skills and character traits that you may or may not have already developed or may not necessarily be willing to develop, right? It's the skill of discipline, right? Being willing to be on that telephone. So look, I will forever and always say that the telephone is your most powerful tool when it comes to sales. Yes, social media works. Yes, you can get people in a webinar funnel. Yes, you can shoot content online, which is brand building so that you can get to know me and like me. And maybe at some point you want to talk to me about joining my brokerage or getting into one of our coaching programs. But the reality is there's no substitute for getting on the phone, for calling people. It's the fastest path towards opening relationships and then building a pipeline, a follow-up pipeline of relationships specifically with people that own the property. So here's what I would do. I would pick a geographic area. I'd pick a circle around that area, and I would direct dial prospect into that geographic area, whether you're calling absentees, whether you're just circle dialing into a geographic farm. Yes, I know it's a long path, okay? What I'm not saying here, get $100,000 fast. I'm saying add it in the next 12 months when you do this. If you gave me 90 days of direct outbound prospecting with dedication and commitment and skill built properly, at least 5 days a week, at least 3 hours a day, 25 to 30 conversations per session at a minimum, I guarantee you'll start generating listings. Now, I don't know where your price points are. I don't know what marketplace you're in. I'm in South Florida, so our price points are high. And I can tell you that if you did this work and you did it with a coach or you did it through your own skill building, right? Whether you're doing role playing or with your own broker or you have a mentor, that is what it's going to take. Get on that phone, direct dial into a geographic area. You could jump into expired. You can jump into for sale by owners. I don't personally love those as a way to be in a market that is not being talked to a lot because everybody calls expires, and you have to be extremely good at it. You have to be extremely dedicated at it. You have to be first on the phone. I'm not saying don't do it, but what I have trained agents to do, pick a geographic area, become known by everybody in that area. And there is no doubt, because I have empirical, real evidence of agents having done it, that you will become known by everybody that owns a house in that neighborhood if you don't stop and don't give up and you have a good follow-up program. And eventually, some of those people are going to want to start listing their homes. It's just how it works, right? And so putting forth the effort that is going to help you have relationships with homeowners so that when they decide to sell, they think of you is how you become a listing agent. When you call your sphere of influence, when you're out networking and talking to referral partners, all of your conversation is around, I help sellers achieve their goals. That is how you will become a listing agent. Okay. I know I've shared a lot here with you. I know I've been talking fast here for a quick minute or two. I want to see you put that extra $100,000 in your bank account in the next 12 months. And I want to see you continue to grow your business over the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever you want to do. You and I both know the agents that really dominate in the real estate sales business and do the most transactions are listing heavy. I know it. That's what my agents are doing. You know it. By the way, your life is way better too. Okay, you're not running all hours to show buyers. You are in much greater control over your schedule. You're in much greater control over your income. You get to decide how much you want to work. And oh, by the way, did I mention the process that I gave you is trackable to the degree that you can know X number of phone calls leads to X number of conversations, X number of appointments, X number of listings signed, X number of listings sold. And if you're going after a core target market at a price point that you're excited about, properties that you're excited about, you can predict your income year in and year out. All you got to do is know what your input needs to be so that you can generate your output. Okay, a lot that I've shared here. Keep coming back, keep listening for great real estate suggestions, ideas, coaching. I want to help you succeed. I want to help you earn more money, live a better quality of life. Until next time.